So, I'm playing Star Citizen, and I'm trying to, gather some footage for the Piracy Show, by the way. And in one of the locals that I was in, somebody is complaining about, I guess they got pad rammed and they had like 1 million UEC worth of cargo in their ship. And they were complaining about it, and people were like, some people were sympathizing, and some people, were kind of like, oh, well, it's an open world PvP game. And once again, in the recent Calling All Devs, CIG has reiterated that point. Nowhere in Star Citizen is 100% safe. Now, some people will feel a certain way about that, but that is the way it is. And so my default position was just like, oh God, this again, because the word griefer was thrown around again. And so I immediately kind of went to that place. God. But the person did make a valid point in one way. And I just kind of went like, you've got a point there. And they said it's bad because there is no valid counterplay to that tactic. And I went, that is a fair point. That is a very fair point. There is no valid counterplay to that tactic. And I think that one of the things that we've kind of lost sight of when we're talking about PvP is counterplay just rarely, if ever, exists. Let me give you a scenario. Let's say you are a trader and you're going around to various regulated landing sites like Shubin Mining, Arcorp Mining, Port Olisar, Area 18, things like that. Things that have, a no-fire zone around them, stuff like that. I think that when implementing things like this, certainly with this new landing mechanic that CIG is implementing, and they say, okay, once you enter in this no-fire zone, if you want to proceed any further, you have to request a landing, and they give you a landing vector to your landing site. If you deviate from that, then you should be shot down. And that, in regulated landing sites, would obviously curb pad ramming. And that, I think, would be a valid counterplay. Now, if that same player who is a trader says, I want to fatten up my margins a little bit, I want to make it a little extra cheddar, so I want to go to the unregulated landing sites, well, then it's on you. Not a safe universe. You got to accept the risk. Maybe you got to be a little bit smarter about scanning areas before you go in there once we have much more robust scanning mechanics in the game. Though that is something that maybe we can look towards in the future. But let's say you're a player who's doing what I'm about to be doing, which is to go and pick up something from an unregulated landing site and deliver that goods somewhere else. One of the problems is that when you spawn a ship like this, it's something that is supposed to be coming hopefully fairly soon, but the ability to spawn a ship within a ship. Yes, so let's say like a Drake Dragonfly within, my Drake Cutlass. If I'm going to this unregulated landing site and I happen to be there parked on the surface of the planet when someone else comes in, they can just blast my ship to pieces, right? That, not exactly a great situation. But if CIG said, now you can spawn a Dragonfly within one of your ships, and we're going to implement, those two little cargo baskets on the side of your Dragonfly so that they now work. So you've got that cargo space there. If they were to make it so that, hey, if I'm a smart player, I can stealth out, get all stealth components for my Drake Cutlass. And maybe I don't have to fly to that landing site to pick up the boxes. Maybe I can just fly to within 50 kilometers of it and then park my ship somewhere, power it down, get on my Drake Dragonfly, and hopefully if I'm smart, I've stealthed that thing out too, and I'm really smart about it, then I can creep up on the landing site on that, check it out, and then maybe slip in, grab the 2 crates or the 1 crate, load it up onto my bike, fly back to my ship, and then take off. And no one saw me do it. Even if maybe someone is scoping it out and sitting up there and, let's say, like a Retaliator or something, waiting to torpedo anyone who lands, maybe they don't see me slip in and out because I'm really smart about managing my stealth. That's valid counterplay. You know, when you start talking about things like this, and it's not just something that benefits, you know, like I don't want, the people who kind of want to turn MMORPGs into just RPGs. I like I like MMORPGs. I just wish they weren't MMO. I just wish the other players weren't there. I could just enjoy the game at my own pace and do what I wanted, and not have to worry about following the meta or doing what I'm supposed to do. Not just something to satisfy those players, but at the same time, recently I talked about the bounty hunter markers and how kind of BS that they are. If you're running a particularly stealthy ship, like let's use the example of a Drake Cutlass again, and let's say you want to be like an elite hacker in Star Citizen. What if we got rid of that bounty hunter marker? We gave you a general area that they're in, but you're still going to have to, with possibly more robust scanning mechanics in the future, scan them out. But, we make it so that, let's say you have to shut down a comm array for one of your hacking missions. What if you parked, your Cutlass, say 50 or 100 kilometers away somewhere in space, powered it down so it doesn't show up on any scanners, and then you hop in on your Drake, your Drake space bike, and you fly the rest of the way to that comm array, slip in, shut it down, go up and hide in the rafters with a machine gun in case somebody else flies in, wait for the allotted amount of time, the hack pulls off, get back on your space bike and scoot back to your ship and then fly away. And that way you are getting all that crime stat, but you now have a valid counterplay for something like that. You now have a way to kind of evade those things. When we look at the systems that are being brought online in the game, and we say like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. One of the biggest problems is that those systems always seem to come in just one step short. It's just like, but where's the counterplay to that? I think in a weird way, when people are out there and they're screaming griefer, 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 and, automatically in your brain, you just kind of think, oh, just shut up. But there are some valid points being made out there. And one of the problems is that a lot of the systems that we're getting, just they come to us not as thought out as they should be. It's kind of like, you remember when all the new landing sites were brought online, the rest stops, the R&R stations, the truck stops in space, and we're all like, ooh, it's the new modular things, and they're all built inside by a computer, so we don't have to do them each individually. And, they have all these new landing things, and there's a little hidden place where you can trade illegal goods and stuff like that. And we're all like, ooh, look at them. They're all, and they're different. They're unique and they're cool. But then, oddly enough, they put landing pads on the outside of them, which is something that the game is not supposed to have anymore, right? Because ships are supposed to spawn internally, so that way when someone calls up a ship, if you're outside of the station, you don't see a ship just wink into existence. Because that breaks immersion. That's the reason why we're eventually getting rid of and replacing Port Olisar, is because of that. And that's also something that kind of is conducive to pad ramming, having places like that. So I think that from certain points of view, there are valid arguments to be made that certain things are, I wouldn't say griefing, but they exploit design weaknesses in the game. Now, obviously Star Citizen is not a finished product. Obviously. But, we're always in such a rush to bring in new features, new landing zones, new ships, new components. But I think that especially when the word live game environment and live game director and things like that get bandied around as often as they do, it would be a good idea to not just look at the features that we're implementing, but maybe look at some of the features that we already have and start thinking about, hey, what is going on, what is happening within the community, what is happening within the, once again, quote unquote, live game, and making adjustments or kind of maybe reprioritizing some smaller things into the schedule to allow for valid forms of counterplay. When you put in a valid form of counterplay to some of these tactics and to some of these things, you say, well, there is a way around that, and you can do this or you can do that. I mean, especially, I've used the Drake space bike, the Dragonfly, as an example. Something as simple as being able to spawn that in a ship, which is something that we are supposed to be getting relatively soon, but also implementing the cargo storage on that bike, which may mean the bike has to go back to art for like a day to have that fixed and implemented, maybe 2, I don't know, depends. But just something simple like that, just a little added extra depth, can add so much counterplay and so much space for a skilled and a smart player to kind of outwit or evade such potential interference in their gameplay, that at that point, when we kind of have these things in place, then when someone does go like, oh my god, griefing, then we can kind of say, no, there is counterplay to that, and if you're not using it, well, then that's just kind of the magic of Darwinism working as intended. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.